and 3. On deck. All right. Okay, how'd you think it went? Yeah, I thought very, very, very good. Could you start this again, Jingping, and see if you can eliminate all the extraneous motion in the prep so that all we see is lift and place. Because right now you're doing a double prep where you're going 3, 4, 1, rather than just lift, place. Okay? One note, please. Yeah, and so I really want you to feel this sensation of lifting up and placing the sound and then allowing enough time for the response. So this is a little habit that we're going to have to just be aware of and break. Okay? So I don't want you to play if you see any extraneous motion prior to the prep. Okay, how many people saw extraneous motion prior to the prep? It was fairly good. Let's do it again. But now that we've eliminated this, which is kind of the wind-up to the pitch, the energy's gone. So now there has to be energy on that without relying on an extra beat to get you there. This is different, right?
Yeah.
All right, now keep going this time. Keep going, okay? So I want you to be aware of that. How do you feel about the tempo?
I just feel very awkward once I start, so...
What's the source of the awkwardness?
I don't feel the energy going in.
Ah, okay. I can sense a little bit of that because I think you're really quick to get off of the ictus. All right? I need you to sustain in that ictus just a bit longer and really feel energy down into the ictus. That's correct. Now we have to get the articulation right. So we don't want it to be legato necessarily. We just want to ring or strike. Okay? Let's try it again. Yeah, so it's more about striking sound. Thank you. And let's see if we can. Yes, thank you. All right, let's keep going this time. Especially in 3/4, this is uber technical, but your last beat in 3/4 is rushed.
Okay.
And so they're trying to crunch da-da-dee-da in to that, rather than allowing it to have enough space. There are 2 8th notes in there. Okay? Let's try it again. I think if you watch your video from the first go around, you'll see, especially on upbeats, so 4 and 3 in a 3/4 tends to be rushed because you're, I think, anxious to get to the downbeat because you know that there's going to be maybe a silence there. See, well, that's a long time to travel before anything happens. So I think some of the tempo problems and feeling like, wow, this is off to the races and all that kind of business, I think is just caused by compressing or crunching some of those beats. Okay? Very, very good job. Thank you, Jinping. Good improvement from your practice session. All right, Aaron is up, Serena is on deck, and who is number 4? All right, Anish is, as they say in baseball, into the hole. Yes?
Did you say he was also doing the reviews?
Yes, so let's see, Tristan, you're watching Wick, Amy, you're watching Serena, Joe, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong episode. Tristan, you're watching Malcolm, Amy, you're watching Megan, Joe, you're watching Aaron, let's see, Hannah, you're watching Wick, Allison, you're watching Serena, Drake, you're watching Raina, Jingping, you're watching Tristan, Jen, you're watching Amy, Anish, you're watching Joe, Malcolm, you're watching Hannah, Megan, you're watching Allison, Aaron, you're watching Drake, Nick, we'll skip because I'm not here, Serena, you're watching Jen, and Raina, you're watching Anish. Okay, that's it. And you get the day off. Here, number 16.
Luke is just at his jury, but he's coming.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. All right. Show us the beginning again, and I love the fact that you're encouraging the breath and even taking it with the ensemble. I want you to see if you can make it a little quieter. So it's not like the, sorry to say, like, 5th or 6th grade band director, like, like one of those, right? I loved it. I just want it to be, you can still hear it, but just not as loud. That's fine. I think this for you is working a lot better because now I'm seeing some style. Did you consciously make an effort to try to show a little more weight on some of those beats?
Yeah, I didn't want them all to be the same.
Yeah, I think what I'm seeing is the wrist starting to work and you're starting to show some articulation and they're responding to it. Where do you think the articulation changes? Like a major articulation change or a style change?
The diction is a change and then the major change is the new melody.
Okay, so how much of a difference did you think you made there? Okay, so let's work on that. I want you to do the beginning again. But then when we get to here, try something wildly different. And really, even if it's kind of crazy, try something to affect their sound a little more. Okay? So what was the wildly different thing? So this is going to be a longer journey, but your natural inclination at moments of change is to pull back rather than kind of embrace and move and engage. So I don't mind it here because it just seemed to work out for you, and I thought, okay, I can deal with that. But maybe in a moment like this, that's more engagement, and maybe there's a little bit less. So that's just a longer conversation. How did you feel about Aaron's eye contact? You trying to buy something on my phone?
No, it's okay at the time.
Okay. You press it twice, the credit card rolls up. How'd you feel about Aaron's eye contact?
I thought it started really well. Like at first you were making eye contact with us, and it was like engaging, and then it kind of went away.
Yeah, so as the score goes on, I suspect that you probably thought a lot about the 4-3, 4-3, 4-3, 4-3. What I think I want to see, and I think you can do it, is at letter A. If you could just start us at letter A. It's all in 4. And I want you to try to make some eye contact with some folks and see if you can affect whatever difference you need to do. Right? If it's, hey, this needs to be lighter, lighter. This needs to be heavier, make it heavier. I love what you did with the dynamic change before letter C. I want you to see if you can do it without doing the hidden, crouching tiger, hidden dragon, like that. That's the right idea, but how do you get this out to here? Right? So again, that's a longer conversation, but I want to see if you can try to do some things. A note from letter A, which is bum, ba, 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 da, 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 dee, dum, ba, dum. And we'll start right on the downbeat. Removing the stand and being forced to make some eye contact, how does that feel for you? And it's okay to say awkward, weird. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There's like someone else, so it's hard to know.
Yeah, the smaller the ensemble, the more awkward it can get because you're dealing with the same people all the time. So it's having that level of kind of friendliness and engagement and not retreating to the score until you need the score. Okay, so I think for you, you have great ideas. Now it's about, one, how do I get them out here? And some of them are starting to come out here, which is the good news. And two, how do I just maintain a level of engagement that encourages some dialogue back and forth? Okay, great job, Aaron. Thank you. Here's your score. All right, Serena's up. Anisha's on deck. Who is number 5? Thank you. It's number 5.
Number 9?
Yes.
Number 9? Revolution?
The dugout, as it were. All right, the person that shares my initials. What's your middle name? David.
Inhale.
Oh, we even got the semblance of a smile at the end, which is really, really nice. Serena, I think this is some of your best conducting that I've seen this quarter. Yeah, very, very nice. So why am I saying that?
I think, like, I was trying to fix the pattern.
In what way?
Like the 3, getting out to 3 and that.
Okay.
And I felt myself not doing it sometimes. I felt like the style was right.
I think you communicated a style that they were in agreement with. Where do you feel, going back to the beginning here, so you've established a style here that I would agree with. Where does, same question I asked Aaron, where does the style change for you?
I guess not for A for the most part. Well, that's when I was trying to change it in my
At A?
Yeah.
Okay, I noticed that. Is there any change here? Because Aaron thought, maybe it changes here a little bit. In what way do some of the things change?
Well, the rhythmic stuff gets softer in the melody.
Okay, yeah, right. And there are some notes that have weight, that have a little bit of emphasis. So I'm wondering if you can bring out some of these little nuances. How might we do that? Show a tenuto. And it's not necessarily a tenuto in terms of it's going to slow down, but it's a tenuto in terms of we're going to play the full value, it's going to have some weight.
Like maybe the whole, like, the emphasis on the second beat.
Yeah, let's try that. Could we start, please, at measure, right at the diminuendo, measure 5. If you need that. Start again. Yeah, measure 5. Yeah, I've now thrown a wrench into your best laid plans. Try it again.
Okay.
And see if I can give you a little guide. Here's 5 again. It's an idea. Okay? You try it now. So when we're trying to get people to sustain or stay on the string, then we don't want to rebound so much. Or if we want them to push some air through that, then we're going to stay on the ictus or slide on the ictus just a bit. Try it one more time and keep going this time. the more we layer on in terms of what you're thinking about, it tends to make some of the fundamental things, yes, right? So it's about having that strong foundation so that no matter what we lay on top of that foundation, the foundation's still there. It's not going to go away. And that's just, it takes a lot of practice to do. But good improvement. This is the best job you've done so far. Good for you. All right, Anish is up. Megan's on deck. Who was number 6?
That's me.
Oh,
Sorry.
Allison in the hole. Okay. Okay. All right. Anish, do you like this music?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can tell. What do you like most about it?
I don't know. I just like the feel. It's like very. It's like super hefty, and I kind of like that.
You like super hefty music. We'll keep that in mind. What part do you like the most?
Let's see.
Okay, and I can tell, right? And if I had asked you that question, would you say letter C was probably his favorite part? Okay, so in what way can he demonstrate that? Or what way did he demonstrate that? Joe?
Well, I think your sense of eye contact maintained throughout, but there especially, it seemed like you really had a good idea of what you wanted to do. I think if you wanted to emphasize C more, I think your pattern could be smaller in other sections, possibly, if you're viewing that as a climax.
And that's a very astute comment, because I was wanting to go exactly there. So if we show levels of heat or levels of energy, I think we would probably agree that C is the Spinal Tap 11 on the speaker that goes up to 10, right? It has by far the most energy, although you could probably argue that maybe the last note should have the most energy, that D major chord that just pops out of nowhere. But when you're dealing with energy, we have to be careful of how it's coming out through your hands, and it gets a little pitchy. Because you want it to go, and you're feeling all that, you're feeling all of that. So now we have to settle that in a way that we're just showing the same amount of energy, but it's more focused rather than, oh here, oh here, oh here, oh here. Not that you're doing that. But there's just a little bit of this, okay? So I want to see if we can economize just a touch. So, oh, you want to go back to the beginning, but I'm not going to let you. Could we start 5 bars before letter C, so this is the piano. And when you start to feel that crescendo coming on, going into letter C, think how to motivate that energy without showing more beats.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
5 in front of C. the right spot. I want to ask you a question. Was that piano?
No,
Did you show them piano?
no. All right.
So sometimes we have to be excuse me, to get my English to work today, counterintuitive about what we have to do is what I was kind of going with Aaron. So we can do this for piano, and people will react to that. Maybe not in the way that we want them to, but in moments like this is what we, I think, have to do. Reach out a little more and engage. So if you want piano, maybe it's here. Now you have to be careful because if I start here, which is a little high, then I've got to worry about, okay, what's my plan to get us to crescendo? So I'd have to think a little bit about that. So maybe it's just getting things moving and coming back again to here, kind of my home base, and then doing something to make this happen, rather than, I want you to do something other than conduct larger.
Okay.
That's an answer, but there are other answers too. And I don't want to...
So if this is like smaller,
Mm-hmm.
I'm confused as to what is bigger without making it bigger. I'm not really too sure.
I was just trying to like get them to do something wacky and weird. And I hadn't thought, okay, how am I going to do this? It was just something.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
All right. Now don't do what I do. You're not me. Be better than me. How much weight? No. How much does that last note weigh?
Not as much as everything before it. I think it's less. I did a little bit too much, I felt.
That's fine. So I think this, we couldn't hold out like hand weights like this for a long time, right? We would just wear out. We'd probably have better luck doing this. So I think that last note has to be a little more here than here. Okay? Nice job, Anise. Really, really good. All right. Megan's up. Who did? Allison's on deck. Who's in the hole? No. You're a baseball player. There you go. We're in the hole, Joe. You're on the steps. Watch the pitcher. All right. Megan. best conducting. Good for you. So what did you like about what you just did?
I thought I did a lot better job of like the overall contrasts and like having a plan for which places to be like smaller versus bigger, or like more staccato versus more legato.
Was that pretty evident to everybody? Yeah, so we got lots of different versions of Megan, which was good, okay? Another thing that I liked was your management of time. And while it may have felt slow to some of them compared to what we've heard before, you wanted to go at a slower tempo. And I would agree. I think this is not, as I've mentioned in the past, I don't think this is a quick tempo. I think this is moderato. So I like how you managed your time and you stuck with your plan. Did you want to go slower at letter C, the big section? If you did, that's fine.
I didn't mean to.
Okay, didn't think so.
Yeah.
So probably what happened there was the little boo-boo right there, and then just recovering from that as we got into letter C. So this goes not just for you, but for everybody. Do conductors make mistakes? Yes, all right? If you come to one of my rehearsals, you go to any rehearsals, conductors make mistakes. It happens all the time. Players make mistakes, they miss notes, they cack notes, oh yeah, like oops, forgot to circle that, accidental that carries through the bar. Everybody makes mistakes. So when you make an error, like, oh God, that 3/4 bar, the worst thing that we can do is, right? Even though this is a lab and, but that's, one way to say, hey, that's on me. Here's the best way in the moment, if you make a mistake, and if you can think about it, that's on me, and we're gonna keep going, like, I got it, okay? The best thing that a player can do in a rehearsal, by the way, if you make a mistake, I'm not talking about like clamming or anything like that, but a total missed note or something, just raise your hand. It's the best. And a lot of you have mentioned in choral rehearsals, they do that a lot. That is a choral thing. I learned it in undergrad too. It saves time because then the conductor doesn't have to go, okay, where was that mistake? Or does that person know that they made a mistake? If somebody just goes, made a mistake, move on. I know you know that you made a mistake. So if something like that happens, just keep going. They know, they don't need like the reminder or anything like that, okay? You did too many things too well to, think, oh gosh, I missed that 1, 3, 4 bar. So what, okay? What I'd like to do is, and I probably don't have a ton of time to do it, although I didn't start the timer, but there's probably a minute or so. Your right hand baton technique is a lot improved, because if you remember from your previous episode, I think we were working on this a lot, right? Yeah. So when you're showing staccato, you're coming to the ictus fairly consistently. When you go into legato, like I think you kind of want to do here, it starts to want to droop some. Not as much as last time, where it was like scooping ice cream a little bit. So I want to see if when you want to conduct legato, if you just think about dusting a table or painting or something, so that that baton doesn't want to droop, because that's when the time will start to sag a little bit. Could we start maybe at letter, let's just start right at A, because we'll get some different variety there. So when it goes back into that style change like it just did, then you've got to go back to staccato, da-da-dee-da-dee-da-da-dum, because that's more in line with what this is. Okay, try it again at letter A. Nice job, Megan. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Allison is up. Joe's on deck. Who is, Joe, you're number 7, right? Okay, and he is number 8. Okay. All right. Did you feel that you were successful at what you wanted to accomplish?
Mostly.
I think so. I want to ask your colleagues for some input. So what were some things that Allison did really well? Yeah.
I really like the way you started. Like, you took a second and, like, let yourself be composed, and then brought your arms up, and then started us. Like, it wasn't rushed at all. It was really nice.
Yeah, you were centered. There was thoughtfulness, focus. What else? Well, apparently nothing else. Oh, yeah, Aaron.
Solid time.
Yeah, solid time. I mean, rock solid. Players really appreciate that. No one wants to play for somebody that's got bad time. What other things did she do well? Did she show differences in style and dynamics?
She showed, especially like with the downhand, I thought that was really nice.
Yeah, right. Now we've got to be careful, because while this is good, at a certain point, when it's below the stand, people in the back row will be going, what happened? Where'd you go? So we always want to make sure that whatever we're communicating with the left hand, if it's intended for people that are also in the back, I mean, you sit in the third row a lot, behind, people's heads, and you've got to maneuver. So you've got to make sure, could this be seen by the percussion? Could this be seen by the trumpets and the, everybody that's in the back? So just be careful about that. I think I told you I had an orchestra director that did all his gestures. Like, oh, this is soft. It's crazy. He's a crazy guy. I want to do something. I think the ending of this, the last page, everybody, 28. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bars. I think it's a lot wilder than maybe what you're accustomed to showing. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay. Your greatest assets are thoughtfulness, control, steadiness. These are all assets to admire and to build upon. I wish I had some of that. I do not. Okay, I'm too impetuous all the time. But I want a little bit of impetuosity from you. A little bit of heat. Like, no, this is how I really feel about this. And get to the last chord and whammo, give it to us. A little, as we would say in the business, showmanship, or whatever you want to characterize it as. Last page, everybody. Okay, now how did that feel? Very awkward, right? Because doing things like that for, would you say that you're more introverted than extroverted? Yeah, okay, that's great, you know? Doing things like that push against that membrane of introversion and kind of force you out of the box that you're comfortable with. I'm not always comfortable doing that, although I think I'm a little more extroverted than some people. I probably need to work on the more sensitive and stable things. I want you to forget, we'll do this for like 30 seconds. I want you to forget about conducting a pattern. Your patterns are great. It's all in 4, right? So no patterns. Even if that just means showing the beats, that's fine. But I want to see if you can make all 6 of the, or actually these 5 bars lead to that moment right there, this magical moment.
Oh, yeah, I don't know why.
That's your horn breath, right? Like, shall we have some tea? This is, like, think about that breath that Aaron was using earlier, that, yeah. And that's the kind of air you'd use if you're playing your horn. That determines, one conductor from the other. Because we could, have the lineup of conductors, they could all get up and do those last 6 bars and do it basically the same way and get the same effect. It's things like dee, da, bum, ba, ba, ba. That's the little showy part of the job that, some people are a little more comfortable with than others. Great job. Great. I pushed you because I knew you could beat this. Next. All right, Joe is up. Who's on deck? Oh, Yee, and who is in the dugout? Raina. Okay, Joe. Joe.
I don't know. I was conducting very careful. I don't know why.
Yeah, right? This does not denote joy.
Right. Yeah.
Like, this music is fun fun music. I mean, can music be fun?
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, music can't always be about, delving up the human soul and putting it on a platter for people to see. Yeah, music can be fun. Think about the last move. That's where we're going with this. This movement builds that energy, if you think architecturally, from the second movement, which is very morose, to the last movement, which is very vibrant and celebratory. So that's why this movement exists. Where is it the most fun for you?
Well, that time, I don't know what I was thinking, but I think, if I had to pick a fun spot, C is probably...
You're too hard on yourself. I saw the thought bubbles as it was going on. Like, you made a boo-boo, and you exacerbated it by showing that you made a boo-boo, right? And then it got in your head. So this might be too personal a question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. When you're in the practice room and you're playing and you make a mistake, do you stop or you keep going?
Sometimes I stop, sometimes I keep going.
When do you keep going?
Whenever I'm running something, and I just want to get a whole take,
Right. So I think how we deal with mistakes is exposed with how we conduct, because again, we're going to make mistakes, and they're going to make mistakes that we have to deal with along the way. And if our mindset is always backward looking, then we stop shutting off what really is important, which is everything that's in front of us, because there's nothing we can do about what's already behind us.
Yeah.
Conducting is very much a forward-thinking process rather than backward thinking. Okay? You have to be in the present, you have to think about how the present relates to the past, but you also have to be thinking about how do I motivate what's about to happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I just had too much on my mind.
Yes, you are a multi-layered individual. Like, there's a lot going on there. Great. We want people that have complexity of vision. So C is the most fun for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see it.
Okay, from...
How about the 5 measures in front of that?
Okay.
Trumpet face.
Okay.
Embouchure face.
What?
Great embouchure, great setup. We could probably put a mouthpiece right there and you could buzz an F for us. But how about a little bit of that?
Okay.
Like, let's go, friends. These are your friends, right?
Yeah.
Like, come on, let's do this.
Okay.
Let's play music. Okay. Now, was that believable?
Yes.
A little bit, right? A little believable. I want you to really believe it.
Okay.
Right? We are in this business because we love people, we love music, and we love collaboration. That's why we do this. That's why we want to play an instrument. Right? We want to make music and have fun and collaborate with people. So, yeah.
Okay.
It's a lot better than this. Right?
Yeah.
No one likes trumpet face. Only when you're playing a trumpet do we like trumpet face. I don't believe it.
Okay, all right.
I want to see teeth.
All right. Okay. 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 Here we go.
You're doing great. I'm trying to get everybody past the technical. All right, so there is a methodology to the madness, and I'm very mad in that crazy kind of Willy Wonka way. So, who was a secret genius and a billionaire, which I am not. So, the technique only can go so far, right? And at a certain point, what you're able to bring to the music in terms of here and here is more important than the technique. Because we all know great conductors that have bad technique. Like, we would give them 1s on that, right? Dudamel, not what I would call a great technician. Bernstein, horrible. No technique. None. 0. Fantastic conductor. Because of this. Yeah.
All right, I'll try it 5 before.
Do or do not.
All right.
All right. Not always the most comfortable thing,
No.
right? But that's where you need to go, all right? And again, it's pushing against whatever membrane we have that kind of is a barrier of communication between us and them, all right? And introvert, extrovert, doesn't matter. We still have to communicate with them in some way. So sometimes this is sad. This is about a girl whose boyfriend went to sea and he never came back, and he went to sea because his parents sent him away because they didn't want him to marry her and she was lower class. Like, this is very sad. We need to communicate that, and you did a good job last time. Now, this is about a blacksmith who works in the square, and, you know, yeah. So the layers of personality that we're able to expose for people will determine what they give back.
Okay.
All right? Yep. You can ask me any questions.
So like, you know, I obviously experienced kind of a
Epiphany?
a more genuine like response.
Yeah.
And then like the time before, I don't know. How do you make sure that you're what you're communicating across isn't like a fake emotion? You know.
That's a long conversation. But, I mean, I think the most important trait for most musicians and any conductor is authenticity. You know, being genuine, being authentic. And you all know, you've worked with people, conductors, teachers, doesn't matter, who are phony balonies. Or that kind of, when they're up on the podium or they're up in front of people, they talk differently than they do outside of, you know, that particular environment. It just sounds fake. And how do we respond to people that we start to believe are a little inauthentic, fake? We shut down, right? Because we don't like to deal with people that are inauthentic. Like, you know, used car salesmen. Sorry if anybody's family is into used car sales. But, you know, that, sorry, I guess I have PTSD from this car buying experience that I just went through. And it was a new car, but it's very much like, hey, how you doing today? What do you do? Northwestern, huh? Music! Yeah, like he could give a crap about what I do. What he wants is $50,000. I mean, so I'd rather him just say, let's get down to business and be authentic about it. So how do we work on that? Authenticity. Because that's ultimately what you're asking, right? How do we make sure that the thing that we're presenting to other people is the authentic me? How do we do that?
I mean, I just thought about how I wanted the piece to sound like before yesterday, and I like took some time to really figure out what I wanted.
And a lot of it too is, and it's unfair to, in a way, make an assessment based on you living with this music for about 2 weeks. But a lot of it is living with the music and consuming it and, you know, walking around with it and having this relationship with it for so long that it's just kind of part of you. The pieces that I have now in my 16th year of teaching revisited, I have a much deeper relationship with than the pieces that I'm just learning. And it comes out in how I conduct. It's just because I'm a little more comfortable with that music. So I think some of it's living with the music a little longer. Jen, you have your hand up
Yeah,
too.
I was just gonna say, like, do it like in front of a mirror or record yourself and see if you would believe it.
Yeah, there's some of that too. And, you know, at the end of the day, musicianship and conducting, it's about being able to communicate with other people. Sans this. It's just communicating with other people. And I'm sure that if I polled 10 of your friends and said, on a scale of 1 to 10 is, with 1 being you're a phony baloney, and 10 being, no, Joe's like this great, authentic person, I would probably get 9s and 10s rather than 1s and 2s. So I think a lot of it is just dropping that shield and being comfortable with who you are and being confident in what you have to say about the music and having confidence that they're going to respond to that. And let me tell you, as somebody who is eternally self-doubting, that's hard for me to do. I get up on a podium, I'm worried about what people think I look like, I stammer. I don't know that many people know that, but I do like stammer from time to time. I always have as a kid. And so I have to be very careful with like particular words or I'll start to stutter. And then I think, oh, here it goes again. And then I start to stutter more and it's like very hard for me to communicate. And then I worry about what I'm going to say. And so self-doubt and all of those things are complete barriers to what we're able to do in front of an ensemble. But it's just being comfortable with who you are, confident in what you have to say, and being able to establish that relationship with them. That's a very short answer to probably the most important question that you could ask. All right, thanks, Joe. Thanks for asking that question. All right. He's up. Who was Raina's on deck? Tricks.
In the hole.
All right. So we've identified the primary issue. So where is it the least steady?
Somewhere before 8 and going to.
I actually thought,
Beginning is number 8.
yeah, right? So I want to find out what the root issue is of that, and then seeing if we can address that a little bit. All right? So could we just to save chops, because you've been playing this for a while, could you just sing for her the opening, 4 or 5 measures of music? All right. Was it steady that time?
I think it's getting better. Like usually third, fourth, and third.
Okay, you think the third and the fourth bar are better than the first two?
Yeah.
I think some of it is caused by, there's a lot of wanting to force the issue with lifting
Okay.
off of the, like, thinking rather than bouncing. Did you ever dribble a basketball?
No.
Oh, I wish we had a basketball. But have you ever dribbled any ball, like a little rubber ball or something? Yeah. So it's about getting that ball in motion and just keeping it going. Boing, 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 boing. Because what you can't do is this, boing, 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 because then it will not work. You have to just keep it going. So I feel like you do this, and then because you're getting stuck up here, you're rushing to get back down, and that's making the time get a little compressed at certain spots. So what I saw was a little beep, da, 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 dee, da, 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 da. Like so quick to get up that you've got to be as quick coming back down. So I wanted to see if we could just do downbeats. So you're thinking about boing, boing, boing. Can you make that noise?
Boing, boing,
Boing, boing, boing, boing, boing,
boing,
boing, boing, boing, boing, boing.
boing, boing,
I see boing, 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 boing. That's what I see rather than boing. Or here's another physical analogy for you. Have you ever rung a handbell? Darn. No, that's a no. Have you ever hit something that makes noise other than piano?
yes.
What?
Some drum,
A drum? Was it a pitch drum or snare drum?
snare.
Oh, good. Could you just tap snare? Yeah, that's a lot, because we don't play snare drum like this. Ah! No, just bump, 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 bump. Good, now we've got to translate that out to here. Boing, 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 boing. Or ring, 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 I like, or knock, 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 something. That's better than this, where you're trying to get all your arm to lift up the sound.
Yeah.
Okay? Could we play a bit for her? Use that wrist. Good. Better, right? Why is it better? What are you doing differently that's causing that to
I
happen?
wasn't trying to get away from the beat.
Absolutely. I forget who we worked with. Maybe who was very first? Yeah, right? We were talking about sinking into that sound just a bit because it's not beep, da, da. That would get a very clipped kind of note. It's da, 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 da. So it's a little more weight.
Yeah.
Try it again and keep going. Your time's better. It's when you lock your wrist,
Yeah.
the only way that you're able to create motion is just to do one of these, rather than just think about your snare drum.
You see, when I'm doing that, I was afraid they will drop below the active, so I could do this.
I'll take it.
Okay.
If that happens, I'll live with it today.
Okay.
Was your time better? Yeah, your time was better. Now we've just got to make sure, moving forward, that the time is where it needs to be, which I think you settled back into a time that you kind of negotiated with them, right? Because you were really quick and the organism said, we're not going to go that fast.
Yes.
The organism will always win, by the way. They will always pull you back if they think it's too fast, or if they think it's too slow, they're going to rush. But we can negotiate. And so I think you negotiated well with them to find that tempo. Now moving forward, I think we want good management of time, but also the articulation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's that fulcrum that we're struggling with. If we have good time, then the articulation goes away. If we have articulation, some of the time management goes away. So it's finding that balance. All right, good, Yi. How do we work on time? Metronome? But sans metronome, what could we do to work on this? And you're going to need to do this for the ORF, the tons. Simply doing something like this. Da, 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 or maybe da, 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 something physical, not just metronome. Metronome's great, and we need to use it. Maybe you do this with a metronome. But something that's physical that gets you to move, your time will greatly improve. There's a gentleman by the name of Emile Dalcroze back in the late 1800s who taught what we now call Dalcroze eurythmics. We probably won't get through everybody today because I'm yapping too much. But it's a lot about teaching, especially rhythm, through movement. And so, you always see people in Dalcroze that are in circles and they're moving a lot and they're doing polymeter and all this kind of weird stuff. But the best thing that you can do for your time is to move. Do something, even if it's just this or this. I do this a lot when I'm working on pulse, just by myself. Just tap on my breastbone, just something to get me to work on my time. And that's always something that I personally have to work on. Okay, with that in mind, Raina, here we go. The blacksmith calls. Percentage was today?
I thought it was better.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, no, I think so. What I want to try to do, technically, many, many good things. You probably know the one or two spots where you're like, oh shoot, that didn't work the way I wanted it to. That's fine, that happens. What I want is to see if, and this is not a bad thing, but you probably in your mind had kind of a checklist of, okay, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to hang out for a while, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to hang, we call that the shopping list conductor, like, okay, I've got my things on the shopping list, okay, check that one off, hang out, now this, now this. So what I want from you, and here's a prime example, you're going to see it on the video. You were like this at the beginning, very, I would call it serene, and then all of a sudden, like, oh! So we don't want the schizophrenic conductor, right? We just want things to seem like, oh, okay, here's this event. It's okay to have events. That is something that we should think about. Like, here's an important event, and here's another important event. what am I going to do in between events? Am I going to lay out a little bit? Do I need to motivate things forward? So it's okay to be thinking about event, and then what you're going to do in between. But what we want is to make sure that the transition from this event to this event seems like an inevitable flow, rather than here's this, and now this. You know? So I want you to see if when you set up, even initially, you're already whatever it was, like, okay, which was great, but now we just want to see the same person. Okay, try a little bit at the beginning, and then we'll skip ahead. Now, as just a point of experience as a brass player, what I usually respond to the least, not because I don't like it, but just physically it feels weird, is something that goes like that. Like, it's because what those of us that play wind instruments want is a low breath rather than a high breath. And so when you do this, or anything that's up, it causes us to breathe high rather than breathe low. So I want you to see if you can think more about a lower breath and a gesture that might be, rather than up, maybe it's out or something other than just up, up. I love the brightness of the face and everything, just the gesture itself is a little jerky. Just one idiosyncratic thing for you. When people do this, what does that usually mean? And that's an answer that anybody could give. If you're talking to somebody and they all of a sudden do this. Yeah, it's like that dog. Like, you know, treat. That's what my little pug does. Treat. So anytime we do this, it's puzzled or so. Use this sparingly, or I don't really get what you're doing there. You know, a little like school marmy or something. So we don't want to do that. We just want to make sure that we don't give the ensemble anything where they're going, what is she doing that for? Okay, so just be aware that's a idiosyncratic thing. We all have our little things that we do, good and bad. So that's just yours, and a simple just acknowledgement of that, I think, will help start to work on that. Okay? I think you're listening, and I think you're enjoying. And I think you can listen and enjoy like that. All right, great. Thank you. Next. I have been calling, okay, Drake. And then who's on deck? Malcolm's on deck.
She's happy about it too.
Wearing all black today. Looks like a
I have my jury.
Oh, gotcha. Oh,
We all.
yeah. Jury's so sweet.
Our teacher's leaving, so it's just us today.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay. So when you feel music that has weight, or as Anish said earlier, heft to it, where do you feel it in your body? Or where do you perceive yourself feeling that weight?
I feel like I kind of bob my head a lot.
That's one thing. I kind of noticed that you seem right-centric to me, meaning I think you feel a lot of things on the right side of your body, maybe because that's your bowing side. I don't know. It could be. I always try to think about how what we play affects how we conduct, and I've observed that in some cellists, not all, that sometimes things on the right side are heavier because of the down bow. That could be a thing. But when you conduct heavier, I don't necessarily think it's really anywhere. And that's why I was trying to go after it. I'm not sure that there is weight, and I think there are times that we can conduct weight without being heavy. That's two different things. If we conduct heavy, then the ensemble is going to play very heavy. And I don't think this is necessarily one of those occasions. But when you conduct legato, for instance, you have a very lovely pattern. It's very, very nice, very refined. When you conduct things like this, it tends to get a little flicky.
Yeah.
Like,
I remember last time you said it was too much. Like,
Uh-huh.
So I think I went the other direction.
it's very economized. It's like the economized, where it's just this. And so I think there's probably a happy medium of too much of this and too much of this that we have to find. And I think maybe some of it could be what I was working with Yi on. It's just feeling like the energy is here at the end of the stick, and our arm's just kind of going along for the ride. We're not driving the stick with our arm necessarily. Yeah, that's better. We just want to allow enough room for notes to resonate. Boom, boom, boom. That's why boing is always like a good little word, because it feels resonant. Boom, 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 boom. That's better. Yeah. Now, could you do a 4 pattern just like that? But be thinking about placing the beats on that table. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, so just do a quick adjustment. Huh? Like that.
Okay.
Can we play at letter A?
Okay.
Right on. No up. Especially into like a thing like the Orff in the Tance that has some weight to it. I think there are times when you can be economized, which is great, and sometimes when you have to show a little more weight at the ictus. All right, but good improvement. Thank you, great. All right, now come. All right. You shall, and it will be amazing. got through it. Okay, and they helped you through it, right? Yeah, yes, they did. So,
The main thing was I lost my place.
I know.
Yeah.
What does what descriptors would you give letter A? Adjectives.
I would give the same things for the whole adjective, which is just sort of, I guess, hefty, really. I mean, that's what the whole thing sounds like to me.
Okay.
It's sort of like it's more transition-y to here, I would hear it as.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't hear it as this one sounding like thing. It's just sort of
No.
not emphasizing it.
Okay. How would, could you just conduct us through the first 4 measures? And could you maybe whisper in my ear what you want this to sound like one word? Okay. Okay, that's fine. Here we go. First 4 bars. Okay, great. What word, if you're in the front row, maybe you heard, so that's cheating. What word do you think he whispered? Or what did you perceive based on what he showed you?
I think a word like this one is like block.
Like a block of sound.
Block.
Mhm.
Block is block.
As far as note shapes are concerned? Mhm.
Perfect block.
Maybe like separated.
Separated? Along the lines.
Heavy.
Heavy? Your word was?
Staccato.
Staccato. Did you see staccato in what he showed you? So they're like, ooh, okay, staccato, huh? So, this is always an interesting game to play. And we do it, I often do it with the conducting workshop. I'll say, give me the 3 words that you want to have perceived, and then go ahead and conduct it, and then ask the ensemble, what did you perceive? And sometimes those 3 words are completely opposite. So, I want to see if staccato's your game, which he says it is, then how can we show that in a way that's convincing to them, rather than, oh, staccato? What?
It's more of a bounce.
Ye-
The problem
yeah.
is I'm still thinking of when I first came up and I did this, this whole thing.
Uh-huh,
So
yeah.
I'm trying really hard to not do that, so I think it's
So
just gonna have to do this.
where we've gone as a result of that is we've kind of tipped the scale to the other side, where everything is very locked right now. And so when we lock everything has to move, and it seems really heavy. Dee, da, 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 dee, dee, da, 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 rather than something that has, yeah, if you did that at the beginning, that would be more staccato. Yeah, try it. Now they're doing some of it because we've been talking about staccato, so it's like in the back of their heads. But you're starting to use your wrist a little more to get that staccato. Was that the dynamic you wanted? Or do you think it's a little more than that?
It's probably a little more than that.
Yeah, maybe a little more. So maybe we conduct with a little more robust motions so that they're really filling the space with sound. But your articulation's much more staccato than what you had at the beginning. Try it again and keep going this time. Yeah, much improved, much improved. So we just have to have this feeling that even though this doesn't make noise, we have to try to imagine that it does. And if it did, what would the sound be? Or we talk about what would the articulation taste like or feel like with this. What do you play? Piano. So you have to think about, if I wanted a staccato note on the piano, what would I do? And you probably wouldn't go like that. That would be an accident note. You'd have something that would be like this. So if you can apply that to here, and even maybe sit down at piano and say, okay, Here's just some staccato notes with my, I would think middle finger, because that's your most extended finger. And then, can I feel the same doing this, okay? If I want legato, then I have to play differently. And then I would have to conduct differently. Okay? Nice job, Malcolm. Some good improvement. Next. Now batting. To accomplish the most,
well,
other than I want to get from the beginning to the end?
Last time my beats were kind of like going all over the place, so I was trying to like keep it going.
Yeah, I think you accomplished that. There's a somewhat of a simple setup fix that I'd like to try with you, and it may take more than just today to iron it out, but I struggle with maybe having you conduct off of the podium just because I don't want you to feel like you have to raise your ictus plane up, but it tends to be up here, kind of covering your face. So a lot of your conducting is your elbows back, and then your wrist is kind of like this. So you see a lot of this, rather than flattening this out. So we're going to kind of do this one joint at a time. So could you go to this, which is kind of where you usually are? Okay. And I'll go right along with you. Now, I want to do that. Okay, great. Already better. Get this so that it's facing up. Now your elbow's saying, oh, I can't do this two things at once. So turning this over forces your elbow out. And then not necessarily up, but just out a bit more, okay? And can you just give us some default downbeats? Now, what you'll want to do as this goes on is it'll want to creep back up to here just a bit. And again, I think maybe some of this is bow hand things. I don't know. I'm not a cellist, and you wouldn't want to hear my cello. I took like 10 weeks of cello, that's about it. So some of it could be just how you feel time in your hand. And that just, it wants to flip over just enough. Yep. That's better. Now could you give us, I haven't seen it from the side yet, but could you give us some staccatos now? See, now, go ahead and do it, but watch your hand. Ooh, someone's got to eat. Someone's stomach is growling over there. So, as it goes, we kind of creep up, all right, to where it comes back to here. And then there is this other issue of this. Where, yeah, see? And that is more of a cello thing. So you want to make sure that if I'm aiming for anybody, it's going to be Raina and Aaron. Raina and Aaron. Raina and Aaron. Look at it back there, right? Rather than Jingping, 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 Jingping. Right? We don't want that. All right? So give it a shot in the beginning. So think about your setup. Think about where your baton is accessing the ensemble, or where it's focused in the ensemble. Thank you, Hannah. Now I'm going to reserve everybody else for Friday because I want to hand back your written midterms. Everybody did fairly well. No one crashed and burned. Class average was a 93, which that means that as far as the normal distribution is concerned, we're right in line. I want to go through this very, very quickly with you in our last 8 minutes or so. Malcolm, Kristen, Rena,